OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast. How is everyone doing, first and foremost? Secondly, let's keep this intro really short because Raw was absolutely action-packed this week, so let's get straight into what we saw. So Monday Night Raw this week started off with us seeing the arrivals of the following superstars. We saw Bron Breakker and Jey Uso arriving. Now they are having their moment when it comes to the Intercontinental Championship match that will be taking place in the main event later on in the evening. Drew McIntyre arrived. Dom and Liv both arrived in a low rider, and then when they were walking into the arena, we actually saw that Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman ended up continuing their brawl in the backstage areas of the arena, which was quite funny to see that that's continued on since last week. Dom and Liv make their way from the outback area all the way out to the ring, and Liv gets Dom to pick her up and do a victory lap. They then hop into the ring, and Liv says, "What you saw before us going around the ring, that was a victory lap. The Liv Morgan Revenge Tour is going exactly how I planned," and they run the tape from last week where the LWO and the Judgment Day were wrestling each other, and then they obviously showed the clip later on where Damian Priest won, and then Judgment Day came out and attacked him and Rhea at the end of the match. And then she said that she promised that she would take everything away from Rhea, that being the title, the faction, and Dom Mysterio. Then, before Liv gets a chance to say anything else, Rhea Ripley comes out and she tells Liv Morgan to shut up, which, I'm going to totally agree with you on this one. She says, "Before you run away, I'm not going to hit you. I actually have something I need to tell you." And then she looks at Dom and goes, "It looks like someone found his balls." And then Liv was like, "Well, maybe if you had have stayed with him instead of caring so much about Damian Priest, you would have noticed that," which has got nothing to do with it. But anyway, and she's like, "Are you going to come out here and tell us that you're not able to compete? I'm going to beat you when it comes to Bad Blood because I'm so much smarter than you. I've had you beaten up here for months." And Rhea's like, "No, I'm fully cleared and I've got a message for both of you. Adam Pearce has decided that you," pointing to Dom Mysterio, "are going to be hanging from a shark cage, and I'm going to win back the one thing that I never lost." And Dom and Liv are both just going absolutely insane. They're both really angry because I thought initially Dom was going to be barred from ringside, but it's kind of funny that he's going to be hanging from a shark cage from the ceiling when it comes to their match. And then Rhea goes on to say another thing. "What I said before, I take it back." And she headbutts the crap out of Liv Morgan. That donk literally was just bonk. It was just so much. It was so good. I loved it. I love seeing Mami on top like this, and I do think she is going to be beating Liv when it comes to Bad Blood. We had a video recap of what happened last week with Sami Zayn and Gunther and Ludvig Kaiser, which then leads us into the first match of the night, which is actually Sami Zayn taking on Ludvig Kaiser. This is a really great match. Ludvig is a really underrated worker, and Sami Zayn does what he does best. So this was quite a clinical classic to start off Monday Night Raw. They're both scrapping back and forth, and then Sami overpowers Ludvig. Ludvig ends up outsmarting Sami, and he hits a really nice running basement dropkick. Sami hits an axe handle, and both men take the fight out of the ring. After the commercial break, Ludvig Kaiser is in control of the match, and Sami hits a powerbomb and an exploder. Ludvig ends up sending Sami into the ring steps, but Kaiser is just enraged by this entire thing. Sami explodes onto Ludvig because Ludvig's trying to distract the ref. Ludvig hits an insecurity, and then Sami Zayn hits the haluva kick to secure the win over Ludvig Kaiser. Gunther comes out in his ring gear, and he is completely enraged with the belt around his waist. He grabs a microphone. He's like, "Look, I've seen enough. Do you want more of this? Tonight is the right time to tell you it's not happening." So Gunther is still continuing to bait Sami Zayn when it comes to this World Heavyweight Championship match. I do think we are going to get it, but I don't think it's anytime soon. I feel like they are going to tease this for Bad Blood, and if they do, I'm totally here for it. Following this, we got to see what happened last week with the New Day and the Judgment Day, and obviously with the LWO getting involved with that tag match, which ultimately cost the New Day the championships last week, and obviously got to see the issues that Xavier and Kofi had after the match and how Xavier got quite frustrated. Then Xavier and Kofi are both backstage, and they're trying to air out the issue, air out the dirty laundry, as one would say, and then they're talking back and forth, and Kofi's found all this really old stuff when it comes to a lot of things that they used to have, like the Bootios, and a lot of memorabilia and stuff from the New Day back in the day, and Xavier's pretty much like, yeah, this is kind of the reason why we haven't been champions for 3 years. Like, nobody takes us seriously. Like, what is going on? And then American Maid come in. They pretty much just challenge the New Day to a tag match later on in the evening. We still have some stuff going on backstage. So we had a Jey Uso and Braun Breaker hype package. They are hyping up this match because this match will be taking place in the main event. Super excited to talk about this when the match actually happens. But we cut to Dom and Liv arguing with Adam Pearce backstage about the decision to keep Dom Mysterio in the Shark Tank during the match between Rhea and Liv at Bad Blood. And then the Judgment Day comes in and they start talking back and forth. And there's a moment where they're all kind of walking backstage and they end up bumping into Ilya, and JD and Ilya have a little bit of a conversation back and forth. We make our way back out to the ring. We have a super short match between Dragon Lee and Carlito. This was still a good match nonetheless. It was very action-packed, but just in terms of pacing, it was a little bit on the shorter side. Dragon Lee ends up kicking Carlito outside and hits a really nice suicide dive, and he's still in control of the match until Carlito ends up reversing it. Dragon Lee's quickness is on display, and JD tries to distract, but the LWO come out to neutralize the situation. Dragon Lee ends up hooking the leg and secures the win over Carlito. Then we see a moment where The Miz is warming up backstage and he actually gets interrupted by Karrion Kross. Karrion's like, I've just come to check up on you, Miz. And Miz asks Karrion what his angle is. And Karrion's like, I just want you to be the Miz that you used to be. All monsters come in different shapes and sizes. And Miz is like, yeah, they do. Then we cut to Kathy and Sheamus and they're talking about the one-on-one issue that he has with Butch. And he basically says that he still has a score to settle when it comes to Pete Dunne. We head back to the ring where we have the match between The Miz and Bronson Reed, and I say have because it never actually eventuated to a match between these two. So Miz is already in the ring, he's made his entrance, he's waiting for Bronson to come out. And whilst Bronson is walking down to the ring, Braun ends up coming out of nowhere and attacks Bronson. Miz ends up running into Braun being like, what's going on? Bronson actually dives through the ring ropes at both of them. Security ends up coming out and both Braun and Bronson are very much doing their absolute best to break through security multiple times. They end up fighting with each other. They end up getting pulled back by security. There's a couple of exchanges back and forth like that. And then Strowman ends up going high. Bronson ends up walking off. And we find out later on in the evening they actually will be going up against each other next week in a match, which I'm super excited to see. Do you know, one thing I actually realized is we got to see the arrival of Drew McIntyre, but I don't actually think Drew McIntyre was on the show, which was really concerning because they've been advertising this for a couple of weeks saying, oh, Drew McIntyre returns, he's going to talk about CM Punk. I did not see the clip of this, so if anybody did, please let me know what happened. After I film this, I will go out of my way to see if there is anything in terms of Drew McIntyre actually being on Raw other than arriving. I'm just looking at my notes now and I'm thinking to myself, I don't actually recall seeing him on the show other than him arriving to the arena. So maybe his segment got cut short for time. I'm not too sure. But it's just another example of Raw being so action-packed considering it's already a 3-hour show. We actually see Bianca and Jade run into Damage Control before they have their tag match, which is actually up next. They're talking about how the match between Io and Bianca was really good last week and how Damage Control are going to be the ones to take the titles off Bianca and Jade when that time comes. But Bianca and Jade are like, you actually have to think about Unholy Union first before you go ahead and challenge us for these titles. So we go into the match, which is Unholy Union versus Damage Control. Io and Isla both start, and then we end up seeing Damage Control double teaming Isla. Kairi's looking really smooth during this match. Isla ends up using the ring ropes to attack Kairi. After the commercial break, the Unholy Union is still in control. They are still attacking Kairi, and Alba ends up ripping off Kairi's little wee eye wrap she's got over her injury from a couple of weeks ago. She is medically cleared, and they do reference that on commentary and also reference the plaster or the band-aid that was over her eyebrow. Alba almost attacks Isla by accident. Io comes in and she just creates a move and then she moves out of the way, and then we end up seeing Unholy Union almost attacking each other. Io comes in hot. She hits a really nice springboard dropkick. Unholy Union attack both attack Io, and then Kairi hits an insane elbow outside of the ring, and we end up seeing a moonsault coming through from Io. Damage Control secure this win. I'm so happy that Damage Control have won. I feel like we just need to see Damage Control going up against Bianca and Jade again, but in terms of Damage Control lineup, it's just Io and Kairi. I feel like that's the best pairing when it comes to going going up against the tag champions. We ended up seeing what happened with Bron and Jay in their promo last week and their exchange with each other, and then we ended up seeing Kathy catching up with Bron Breakker, and she's asking how he's feeling going into the match. He talks about how it's game day and the dogs are barking, and at the end of the day, there is going to be a winner in this match and there is going to be a loser, and it deserves to have the right superstar carrying the Intercontinental Championship, and it is not going to be you, Jay. I'll give you another chance when you build your way back up the ranks, but today is not that day. We ended up seeing a quick snippet of the Roman and Cody video that we saw from last week, and then we end up seeing Sami and Jay sharing a moment backstage while Jay's getting hyped up for the Intercontinental Championship match. Sami is very much on Jay's side, and it's super exciting to see these two not only interacting backstage, but also bonding over the Intercontinental Championship, and Sami is relaying to Jay how much it means to him and how much he wants to see Jay become that champion. Then we had a super quick tag match between the New Day and American Maid, and I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't write many notes down because I was just focusing on the cohesiveness of both tag teams. This was really good. American Maid did secure the win. There were so many great moves where American Maid came in. Not only were they distracting the referee in terms of Ivy and Chad, but they also had just really nice sequencing and a lot of really fluid movements when it came to them working up with the New Day. Kofi and Julius, they have really great in-ring chemistry, and obviously Brutus has a lot of power going into these kind of matches. Xavier looked fantastic as well too. There were so many different moments in the match where I think it was Brutus who was trying to hit. Well, actually, Xavier was getting chopped by somebody from American Maid. I still get confused on their names sometimes. But there was like some chopping exchanges back and forth, and each time Xavier was getting chopped, you could just see him getting more aggressive and more aggressive. And then I think the LWO actually came out at some point during this match as well too, which was kind of unnecessary, but anyway, it's absolutely fine. So we have a little bit going on backstage. So we had a Damian Priest promo package. Now, I really enjoyed this. Basically, the crux of it was that he was talking about how when he was growing up, the saying was around, do you know your brother's keeper? And he talks about how when he found the Judgment Day, he found family and he found a brother within Finn Balor. And he's talking about how when Rhea became champion, you were still envious of her, and when I became champion, you were still envious and jealous of me, and starts to talk about how he knows his brother's keeper and how he's going to end Finn Balor at Bad Blood. This is what Bad Blood is all about. This is the kind of matches and the kind of storytelling that I want to see. Obviously, we know the rundown of what's happened with Damian and Finn from all their time in the Judgment Day. So there is a lot of story to play off when it comes to these two. Then we have a Wyatt 6 video package, which actually follows in us seeing another QR code. Unfortunately, I did not get time to scan the QR code whilst I was watching Raw and getting the notes, but I'm sure if you go on Twitter, or X as some people now call it, you'll find information on what the QR code was about. We had a Pure Fusion Collective promo, and then we ended up seeing the New Day backstage after the tag match, and the LWO come in to apologize, but Xavier is really upset with Rey Mysterio, and Rey's talking about how he's got a match with Finn Balor next week, but then Xavier's trying to poke at Rey to get a match out of him. And Rey's like, look, Finn Balor can wait another week. Let's have a match next week. And Xavier's really excited. But Kofi's like, why did you feel the need to pick the fight? And then we end up finding out that we're having a last monster standing match next week between Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed. As I said before, super excited for this. I feel like this is the best way to use both of these superstars, because Bronson Reed has been that monster that's been continuously beating down on people until he found his match in Braun Strowman. So this is going to be super interesting to see how the match dynamic works with these two next week. We are finally at the main event, and it is Jey Uso challenging the Intercontinental Champion Bron Breakker for the Intercontinental Championship. Jey Uso makes his entrance from the top of the arena. He goes all the way through the crowd for his entrance. This match was super exciting. It was on the longer side for a Bron Breakker match, but I'm not complaining because Bron knows how to fill the time with moves that keep you super interested. So he starts off on the attack against Jey. He hits a really nice bulldozer onto Jey, but Jey hits a couple of uppercuts onto Bron Breakker. Jey hits a suicide dive, and then after the commercial break, Bron is still in control. Bron ends up throwing Jey onto the ring, or into the ring post, I should say, and then he ends up tossing Jey across the ring. Bron ends up putting Jey into a hold, and he hits a really nice backbreaker onto Jey as well. He ends up bashing Jey into the commentary table, and he does a broad jump off the ring apron all the way to the commentary table as well. After the commercial break, Jey ends up reversing Bron's attacks. Jay hits a really nice hip attack, and we end up seeing a top rope Frankensteiner coming in by Bron Breakker. Bron ends up spearing Jay. Jay ends up countering Bron with a spear, and we have an Uso splash, and that gets us a 2 count, which actually increases the intensity and the speed of this match. Jay super kicks Bron as he's running around the ring to set up a spear. Jay ends up spearing Bron into the barricade, spears him inside the ring, hits an Uso splash, and we now have a brand new Intercontinental Champion, and I'm so excited that this just happened on a random episode of Monday Night Raw. I'm so excited for Jay Uso. Do not get me wrong, I like Bron Breakker as the Intercontinental Champion, but we have been saying for months, if not years, it is time to put singles gold onto Jay Uso. If you need a better example of this, you quite literally just need to listen in the match. We obviously are talking about this now. At the 2 count where Bron ends up kicking out of the spear and the Uso splash combo, the crowd is so hyped because they thought that was the 3 count. But then when you have the 3 count coming in a little bit later, the crowd just goes unglued. But also, every time Jay makes an appearance, whether it's a promo, an entrance, he's in a match, he's so incredibly over. Anytime he does a backstage segment, just his work with the Bloodline over the last 3 years alone, I think it just really goes to show that Jay Uso is a single star. And I'm so happy that they finally have given him some form of mid-card title gold, that being the Intercontinental Championship. I'm just so excited for him. You can tell he's been working hard, and you can tell that this means a lot to him. So it's super exciting that he's going to be the one to be the new Intercontinental Champion. I'm excited to see what happens with Bron Breakker now. Maybe they might move him over to SmackDown, or he might stay on Raw, and maybe he could challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship, or maybe they just keep developing some storylines for him just without a title. You just got to keep in mind as well too, he's been on the main roster for less than a year, so this is super exciting that not only has he held mid-card championship gold, but he's a fantastic wrestler and a phenomenal worker as well too. I'm just so excited to see where they go from here. And that brings us to the end of this week's Monday Night Raw review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure you go ahead and like the video, as well as commenting something down below that you enjoyed about Raw this week. While you're there too, you should absolutely subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and hit that bell. Those are your notifications, and you will be notified every time we upload a brand new video or a podcast. While you're there too, you should absolutely check out the description down below. It's got all the links to Outcasted on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as where you can find all of us personally on social media when we're not posting on the channel. As always, you've got your regular NXT review set up this week by Reese coming in later on this week, as well as the podcast. We are back this week, and we are going to be talking all things wrestling. I'm not 100% certain about what the topic is as of right now, but obviously if you guys subscribe and go ahead and follow us on socials, you'll get to know what we're doing ahead of time, as well as there being the SmackDown review coming in later on this week. I have been Courtney from the Outcasted OC, and I will see you guys in the podcast this week. Bye, guys.